Good afternoon, fine people of the internet. Welcome back to Maverick Baking and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kelly and on this channel we talk about all things food, baking, chocolate and other things to do with that and vaguely close to it. We make things, we review things and we challenge ourselves here on this channel, and it would be great if you wanted to stick around, so do feel free. I know that plenty of you watching out there aren't even subscribed. How rude. Today I want to sit and talk to you guys about something that I know is on almost all of our minds almost all of the time. How on earth can we spend less money? This is a topic that is especially relevant in any given January, let alone January of 2021, when the vast majority of the planet are still crawling and clawing their way out of last year, with absolutely no desire to ever time travel backwards ever again. So in today's video, I just want to cover with you guys 5 easy ways that we can all spend a little bit less money on food, because food and grocery shopping can take a big bite out of your weekly or monthly paycheck, and we shouldn't have to reduce joy just because we're reducing spending. Let's get into it. So I think the most important advice ever when talking about reducing spending on food, I think something that isn't spoken about enough is that we should all buy more vegetables. Without wishing to sound like your mother, vegetables really are so much more valuable than we give them credit for. Not only are vegetables entirely essential to good well-being, both mental and physical, they're also pretty good for your financial well-being too. Much of the planet is rife with convenience food. I love convenience food, I love processed food, it is entirely necessary, but when you are able to, especially if you're finding yourself spending a lot more time at home nowadays and cooking more, and I don't mean the Instagrammable, fashionable, giant kale leaves and purple sprouting broccoli, I mean take it back to basics. As you may have guessed by my accent, I am based in Scotland, an incredibly cold climate that does not lend itself well to growing many things. So when it comes to vegetables, I would advise that you kind of take a look at your own nation or your own kind of region where you live and see the kinds of vegetables that are in abundance that will add not only flavor and nutrition to your meals, but also pad them out too. Think of things like onions and garlic, the basis of so many fantastic recipes worldwide. Both of those things add incomparable flavor and a good dose of kind of nourishment into your meals at the same time, and they are shockingly cheap. Now, as I said, there may be certain areas of the world where this is not the case, but onions and garlic are fairly easy and abundant to grow, and my word, they are worth it. Similarly, I would look to things such as root vegetables and potatoes. The amount of starch in potatoes makes them an incredibly filling option. They're nutritious and you can buy multiple kilos of potatoes from most places on the planet for, again, a shockingly affordable price. All of these kind of untrendy vegetables, they are so versatile, they're so good for you, and they're so affordable that even if your childhood was marred by overcooked, soggy, burnt vegetables that didn't have nearly enough seasoning or flavor in them, I get it. Mine was the same. Sorry, Mum. But vegetables really should make up the bulk of your diet if you're trying to save money, and if you can digest them well, obviously. For the sake of all common sense, I think we all just need to eat some more vegetables, lads. A second really simple way to save money on food without even noticing what you're doing is to buy frozen. Now, I feel like frozen food has a bit of a bad reputation for being kind of junky, for being far too convenient, and for almost being a little bit kind of suspect. You know, I think many of us think of frozen oven chips, frozen onion rings, or the weird kind of bags of frozen diced onions, which do have their place, especially if you are, you know, less capable, less able, or if you are just really short on time and hate chopping onions. But frozen food really shouldn't be overlooked when you're trying to make savings. If you're a big fish eater or a big meat eater, you can get some great deals in the frozen section of any kind of supermarket or frozen specialist store. As I mentioned with the vegetables, they may not be kind of the sexiest and most photogenic cuts of these things. For example, if you were buying prawns, they won't be the big kind of dramatic ones that still have all the big dangly bits on them like you would get from a fishmonger. But you will get some very decent and affordable wee prawns that again are incredibly versatile and just as good. The same goes for cuts of fish, for cuts of meat, and of course, vegetables, because while some of you watching this may live in climates where there is kind of abundance of fruit and vegetables all year round, frozen produce is a lifesaver when it comes to the winter in the country where I live. It can prove to be one of the most economical ways to buy fruit and vegetables. If you live in a 1 or 2 person household, often it can be hard to get through a big stock of something if you buy, you know, a whole punnet of mushrooms or a whole bunch of celery. If you can buy frozen vegetables so that you have a lot longer to eat them, they definitely won't spoil or expire as quickly, it's a real lifesaver and will usually be much more affordable in the process. A third simple way to reduce the spending on your food bill every week is to buy seasonally. Now, this isn't something that people like chefs and super foodies have to practice, and I know it can come with a bit of a pretentious eye roll sometimes because you think, yes, please do enjoy your Floridian pink grapefruit when you can. But the very quiet little savings you can make in buying seasonally do add up. One of the best examples are berries. I bloody love strawberries. I am a slut for strawberries. But the problem is, if you want strawberries in November, December, January, February, you're probably going to pay about £3 for one package and they're going to taste like garbage, basically. Whereas in the summertime, especially in Scotland, you can get big punnets of blueberries, of raspberries, of strawberries, and they'll be literally half the price you would get them for in the winter time. The same goes for vegetables. Things like leeks come in and out of season, like asparagus comes in and out of season. You'll often find great prices on things that are growing in abundance at the time. And if not, buying them frozen can be a good way of kind of mitigating the price you would be paying for those extremely overpriced strawberries, for example. A fourth tip that everyone should remember when doing their food shop to save some money is to buy other brands. I think we're all guilty of this. Many of us may have grown up rolling our eyes at our mothers who picked up the chocolate rice cereal instead of Cocoa Pops because we thought it wasn't as good or it wasn't as fun because it didn't have the same monkey on the front of the packaging. But it's something I think that is rooted in all of us simply through the means of companies having better marketing and better branding than others. That doesn't mean you should never try the much more affordable versions. Even the supermarket owned branded versions can often be made in almost exactly the same way as the big brand product, and you probably wouldn't tell the difference if you tasted it. But this doesn't just apply to kind of big name famous brands. If you were shopping for pasta, for example, there will often be big, beautiful brown paper bags with some big scrolling feminine font that has some Italian name of the pasta shape that you can't pronounce, and it typically suggests better quality. In some instances it might, but in some instances it might just be a slightly shorter and fatter version of penny, which you can get for 60p in the very plain white packet next to it. And often you'll find that the products inside these things are pretty much the same. They just don't look quite as fancy in your cupboard. Tip number 5 for saving those pennies when doing your grocery shopping is to buy your starches in bulk. This one again is not glamorous, but my god, it is worth it. Much like your sexy bags of pasta, the equivalent exists also for the kind of single portions of rice or the little pre-cooked couscous things. While these are good and extremely convenient, don't get me wrong, I do still purchase them from time to time, get the 1 kilo bag of rice instead of the 250g one. Even if you don't eat that much rice, exactly the same as you'd find in a kilogram of couscous, a kilogram of rolled oats, a kilogram of polenta, for example. All of these things are so affordable and can make up a great chunk of your meals, filling you up for less money. Plus, the expiry date on these things is often years away, meaning you have plenty time to have your big cozy bowls of grain-based meals for a seriously good price. So those were 5 tips for helping save some money on your food bill. But wait, I'm going to give you a bonus tip because I'm just feeling generous for a change. This is a tip I can't emphasize enough. Now, I will never encourage the whole planet to go vegan because it would cause as many problems as it would solve, undoubtedly. But something I think we can all take from the rise of the plant-based lifestyle is meat is not only unsustainable for our health and for the planet, but for our wallets too. Many people where I live will eat meat twice a day without even thinking about it. Now, while this is incredibly good for some people and the way it works in their diet and lifestyle, it can get pricey, my word. In this country, we have a bit of obsession with lean protein as well. While of course they can be good for you and they can be delicious, They don't go very far, and they also can cost a lot because they are that sort of prime cut from the animal. So you can really interpret this tip as a way of either buying less meat or buying different meat if you absolutely have to continue eating meat at the rate you are just now. Do consider buying wings, legs, thighs, rather than the breast, or rather than the kind of conveniently chopped sandwich meat. Even buying a whole chicken or a big kind of cut of pork or of beef will get you so much further than all of these individual convenience packs of specific cuts. If you can roast a whole chicken, that can last you 3 to 4 days, depending on how many people you have in your house. Even if it's a bit of a faff on a Sunday night, if you can buy a whole chicken for £4 and get multiple meals and probably soup out of it, you know, there's a reason that our grannies did that. But it works in both flavour and nutrition and financially. The UK, and I know a lot of America, do kind of grow up on a basis of meat and 2 vegetables. You know, you'll have your protein as the kind of big star of the meal that you look forward to. You'll have some kind of starch and then maybe some kind of vegetable. Now, while there's nothing wrong with this occasionally, building every meal around this kind of format can get really expensive, unsustainable, and just a bit of a pain to cook as well. If you can look to the way that other countries prepare their vegetables, you know, having vegetable-based dishes, look to India, look to Italy, look to Spain, look to France. While these countries do obviously still eat large amounts of meat in some areas, you will find that the way that they use meat, or the way that they can often use pulses or vegetables as the focal point of a meal when cooked and flavoured well, it might help to kind of change the attitude many of us have towards meat having to be the star of a dish. So those are my 6 kind of easily accessible ways to try and spend less money on food. Now, I know they're not all easy and they may not apply to you and your lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. That's something I completely understand. Some of these tips I've taken on board into my own life, some I haven't because they just don't fit with the way I live and the way I eat, which is fine. But if cutting down on your food bill is something that you're seriously looking into this year, I'm sure at least 1 or 2 of these tips could really help to do that. Do let me know in the comments below if you guys follow any of these kind of tips already, and of course, please do share your own tips below as well, because Lord knows I probably still spend far too much money on food too. But that is going to be it for today's video, guys. Thank you as always for watching. I really hope this one has been helpful and that you've enjoyed it as a little bit of an aside to the usual kind of content, and let me know if this is something you would like to see more of. But in the meantime, that is all I have time for. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you for the next one.